Joining us now, John Kirby, director of the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics. He led communications at the Pentagon under Presidents Obama and Biden and is a retired rear admiral in the U.S. Navy. It's been a little while since I've seen you. It's good to have you here. More than 8 minutes to address these American deaths. And then, almost in the same breath, he said, war is hell and bad things happen. What message does that send?
Yeah, look, 6 more American families just got the worst possible news. And that brings the total to 13, I think, right now.
Yes.
And thousands of troops are involved in this effort, and they've got family members back home that are rightly worried and concerned. So I find it unfortunate that it took that long to state what is the biggest headline today of the crash of that aircraft. And I would hope that when we're talking about war and peace, when we're talking about human lives, civilians and military in a time of war, that we would do it with some humility and some grace and some dignity.
I don't need to tell you because you did it, but ultimately the job behind that podium is to inform the American people, especially important at a time of war when, as you point out, lives are at risk. But we've seen a series of contradictions from this administration. Just today, Secretary Hegseth railed against the headlines that say war intensifies. He said, why do you have to do that? But then he said the war is ramping up and only up. Here's some more of what we've heard from this administration in just the past week.
I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion.
From the beginning, from this podium, we haven't stated how long it will take.
We're ahead of our initial timeline by a lot. It's going to be ended soon.
It's not for me to posit whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end.
Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to...
soon.
What do these mixed messages mean when the American people are looking for real answers?
So there's 2 components to this. One is, and you hit it, the American people. The polls show that the majority of Americans do not support the war effort, and there was no effort in advance to sort of prepare them for what was going to happen, to articulate the objectives and the goals, and to try to gain a measure of public support, let alone legislative Congress, congressional support, or even allied support. And so when there are mixed messages like this, when the political leadership is saying something different than the military leadership, you can understand, and I think the American people can be forgiven for being more confused about this and much less willing to really come around to supporting it. So it's a matter of public support. The other thing that concerns me, Chris, is the military. If you listen to General Kane, and you listen to Admiral Cooper, they have been very consistent about what limited objectives they're going after and how they're going after it. And they've been measured, they've been contextual, they've been calm.
And sober.
And sober, absolutely. And I think respectful of the job before them and how they're executing it. When the political leadership bounces between regime change or obliterated and absolute, unconditional surrender, I'm concerned about the messaging that the military leaders are getting about what they're doing and whether or not they're going to be asked to do more outside the scope of what I think they've been ordered to do, what they've said they've been ordered to do. So it has a dimension in the public, but it's going to have an effect on the military leadership as well. So
Nancy Youssef from The Atlantic posted today that she, along with print photographers, were denied access to that briefing today. The Washington Post had reported earlier this week the Defense Department barred photographers after publishing what they said were unflattering photos of Secretary Hegseth. What do you make of restricting access to legitimate news organizations at a time of war?
I come at this, having stood at that podium many, many times in 2 different administrations. The American people, whether they support the war or they don't, they deserve to know how the men and women in uniform are being ordered to defend their interests. They deserve to know how their tax dollars are being spent. The open and free access to the press from the Pentagon podium is not a privilege. It's an obligation. Like, you have to do it. And not that you should do it or can do it or may. You have to do it. So I'm glad to see that the Pentagon is conducting briefings. I wish they were more frequent, but I'm glad. And look, to their credit, it is the Secretary of Defense, and it is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. I mean, the two top leaders are meeting the press in these briefings. I wish a couple of things. I wish it was more often. I wish that the jingoism would be brought down a little bit. I wish that more traditional, conventional media were in the room and not just sympathetic outlets, or that in some cases don't even qualify to really be media outlets. I wish you had more of the traditional, conventional media in there to ask those kinds of questions. It is an obligation, but it also, and this is what I always thought too, is policymakers will make better decisions if those decisions are being held to the scrutiny of an independent press. So a confident, secure administration is unafraid to face a challenging press corps on any given day, on any given issue. And when you aren't, it does connote, I think, a message that maybe you're not as confident as perhaps some of the bluster might seem to indicate.
We can't say enough. Lives are at stake, but there are also very real impacts here at home, particularly for almost every American. 65 cents more for gas, right? For every gallon of gas when people have to pull up. We're hearing that some of the TSA agents are sleeping in their cars so that they don't have to spend money for gas to go home. And today, Secretary Hegseth seemed to dismiss concerns over the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Take a listen.
The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that. Now, there's a reason why we chose as one of our primary objectives to destroy the Navy. We understood the ability to interdict shipping is something Iran has done for 40 years. We've heard them talk about taking various measures, and we're planning for all of them. So we have a plan for every option here. We're working with our interagency partners.
The administration has said, don't worry about it. Do they seem to have a plan? But beyond, and you are very familiar with this, talk of escorting ships through the strait, although they even acknowledge that that's not going to happen anytime soon.
I don't think they want to do that. I think they'd prefer not to get into that. It's very time-consuming. It's dangerous. It's resource-intensive. I do believe that that Central Command and the military had on the shelf and ready to go plans to try to keep the strait open. I have no doubt that Admiral Cooper, having commanded the Fifth Fleet, understands very well the capabilities that the Iranians have to try to close it. And he understands better than most that you can close the strait, and they did in these first few days, just through fear alone. They hadn't fired a single shot, and ships weren't willing to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And now they're taking shots at some of these tankers with drones. And I think that's the biggest concern right now. It is not by accident that, and Secretary Hegseth in this point, he's right. It's not by accident that they've been going after the Iranian Navy and the IRGC naval capabilities to try to prevent them from dropping mines in there. That was, I believe, all along part of their strategy and their plans. And so I'm not worried that military capabilities won't be applied to do everything they can to keep the strait open. But we don't get to decide whether shipping companies move their oil tankers in and out. They get to decide, and there's still a lot of fear. And it doesn't take more than one drone to get through. And we've seen how single drones can still get through. It doesn't take any more than one to shut down that strait.
Admiral John Kirby, it is good to see you. We both worked during the Obama administration. You were fielding questions in a different way than you are now. You ever miss it?
I miss being in public service. Sure, of course I do, and I miss being around the press corps.
Wow. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
it's good to see you.
You too.